You're listening to Puma Podcast.
So may mga pag-aaral actually na nagsasabi na yung mga taong naniniwala sa conspiracy theories, na yung mga tao na ang tingin sa sarili nila ay very critical people. Yun yung interesting kasi parang pag inisip natin, sino bang naniniwala sa conspiracy theories? Sila yung mga utu-uto, sila yung madaling maloko. Pero actually, yung self-perception ng mga naniniwala is yun nga, critical kami. Hindi kami actually yung type ng tao na nasa filter bubble. Nagbabasa kami ng iba't ibang sources. Kaya nag-a-appeal nga yung nabanggit ni Sofia, yung mga influencers na nagsasabi na, do your own research, or the decision is up to you. Ikaw yung mag-decide kung ano yung tingin mo dito sa conspiracy theory. Nag-a-appeal yun sa kanila kasi nga parang hindi lang siya parang sinasabihan na think before you click, na medyo patronizing siguro yung tingin nila. Parang tingin nila, yung conspiracy theory, ginagalang yung pagiging critical thinkers nila.
In a post-Duterte world, the Philippines is now highly polarized. Across the political aisle, citizens can't seem to agree on a shared baseline of facts. Filipino academics have called this phenomenon parallel public spheres or a political multiverse of madness. Whatever it is, we no longer watch the same news or understand facts the same way, so we don't live in the same reality. Central to this is the conspiracy theory. And in the Philippines, plenty abound, from the memeable, like a lizard man in a shopping mall, to the harmful, like the denialism of the war on drugs. This is Regine Cabato for Teka Teka News, powered by Puma Podcast. Today I'm joined by sociologist Nicole Correto and journalist Sofia Tomacruz. Nicole is a professor of democratic governance at the University of Birmingham, and Sophia is finishing her master's degree at Columbia University. They authored a recently published paper that looks into how conspiracy theories harm democracy in the Philippine context, looking specifically at the Talana Gold theory. Nicole and Sophia, thanks so much for coming on.
Hi, Regine. Good to be here.
Hi, Regine.
Okay, it's so great to have you guys on. Maybe we can get started with what first is a conspiracy theory?
Yeah, so from our definition, ang definition namin ng conspiracy theory is isa siya sa mga kwento or paniniwala na may mga grupo ng tao na palihim na may pinaplano or ginagawa na hindi nila gustong malaman ng karamihan. Syempre marami namang ganong kwento, di ba? Pero ang isang malaking characteristic ng conspiracy theory, in the paper, we say na it's oppositional. Meaning, yung kwento or yung theory na pinapalabas nila is taliwas sa opisyal na pahayag ng gobyerno or scientific organizations. So, halimbawa na lang yung favorite na conspiracy theory natin nung COVID, di ba? Yung mga anti-vaxxers. Ayaw magpabakuna ng COVID kasi tingin nila may sabwatan yung pamahalaan, mga pharma companies, World Health Organization, si George Soros, 'di ba? Kung sino-sino na lang na may sabwatan, yung mga iba't ibang ahensya at mga tao na itago yung katotohanan na hindi naman pala talaga safe ang vaccines. Ginawa lang nila yon para kumita sila ng pera. So taliwas siya. It's against the official pronouncements of organizations like the WTO and the scientific community. So, I think yung isang important din na characteristic is may malice, malisyoso or malevolent yung kwento. May malisyosong pakay yung mga tao na nasa likod nung conspiracy. Kaya hindi nila gustong malaman ng mas nakararami na meron palang conspiracy na nagaganap.
At hindi naman bago itong phenomenon ng conspiracy theories, di ba? It's actually existed since time immemorial. Even during the dictatorship, di ba? Marami ng mga conspiracy theories even before. Um, pero what changed in recent years? At bakit parang nagkaroon ng movement ng conspiracy theory from just this fringe thing na maririnig mo sa mga family reunion na, uy, parang, is, do you think this is real? To now something that actually informs um, how people really view political events.
Yeah, actually, I suppose as the oldest person in this podcast. Noon pa naman may conspiracy theories nga na. So I'm sure lahat tayo, meron tayong tito na naghahanap ng Yamashita treasure or may paniniwala na meron palang ahas sa Robinsons. So shout out sa
Yeah,
mga generation ko. So, pero sa tingin ko yung pinaka nagbago talaga is yung nature on how they are constructed and told and disseminated, which is about the digital platform, di ba? So I'll defer to Sophia on this one kasi mas kabisado niya to.
Yeah, I think with just the Nichols story, yeah, like just to also I guess describe how different it is. I remember like yung lola ko, yung mga conspiracy theories niya, yun nga, yung Yamashita treasure. Pero yung sinasabi niya, no, may tape, may videotape ako, as in like VHS tape. Whereas now, the way that it's produced, like Nicole was saying, it's really been, I guess, amplified and in ways enhanced because of the digital landscape. So for instance, when we were looking at the case of the Philippines, we were looking at obviously YouTube, Facebook, TikTok. And how that changes things is that one, it really amplifies like how far and wide these conspiracy theories spread. And so yeah, aside from the platform, YouTube, TikTok, Facebook, also I guess in the way that digital like content is consumed now, it can go anywhere from a minute long to 2 minutes long, which is sometimes all you need. Or, if you have all the time in the day, you can go all the way to like an hour and a half, which is some of the things we come across.
For your paper, ang pinili niyong aralin na theory ay ang Palano Gold. Maybe for the listeners who may only be loosely familiar with it, let's have a recap of what exactly this conspiracy theory proposes. At ano yung naging findings ninyo when you actually went down on the ground and asked people about it?
Yeah, so parang maraming versions yung Taliano Gold actually. In a nutshell, basically, it explains bakit mayaman ang mga Marcos. And the reason is because, so again, marami siyang versions, no? But one version is to say, nag-abogado si Ferdinand Marcos Sr. sa Taliano family at binigyan sila ng gold bilang kabayaran at doon ang gagaling yung pera. Meron siyang extension, ang kwento ngayon, lalo na nung tumatakbo si President Marcos for president, ang extension niya is yung pag nanalo si Marcos Jr. sa pagkapangulo, yung gold na yun ipapamahagi sa mas maraming Pilipino. And yung malevolent character niya or yung oppositional character niya is to say na kaya ayaw nilang malaman ng maraming Pilipino yung yaman ng mga Marcos kasi yung mga liberal na yan, yung Amerika, yung mga komunista, may sabwatan yan. Ayaw nilang malaman ninyo. Kaya kaming mga influencers, in the case of the Taliano Gold noong 2022, kami yung nagsasabi ng katotohanan, di ba? Na gusto naming malaman ninyo. So, marami siyang variations, especially after nanalo ni Marcos Jr. bilang Pangulo kasi nga, nasa na yung gold, di ba? So, may extension din yung mga kwentong ganun.
Oo. And just to add, no, na in relation dun sa extension, sa naging evolution ng conspiracy theory na to, it's actually resulted in people lining up outside, I think a couple of summers ago, Bangko Sentral, and even before that sa UP, dahil may belief sila na i-distribute na raw yung gold or i-distribute na raw yung ayuda. And so it's moved from this realm of yung mga fringe lang na theory sa family reunion or even sa online to actually something na naniniwala talaga yung mga tao na it will translate into a government program, no? At isang naging finding din ni na Ariate at Reyes of UP Third World Center was my connection yung conspiracy theory na to with financial scams that are happening on the ground. I'm not sure if you guys have probably heard of this, no? Pero that being said, sa naging pagbabad niyo sa mga communities of people who have heard about the theory, ano yung naging common reception nila? Kung bakit silang napapaniwala dito? Or conversely, bakit silang na-entertain? Because they're not necessarily sold on the theory, right? Based sa paper ninyo. So tell us about it.
Yeah, so ako for the longest time since Typhoon Yolanda, nakababad na ako sa Tacloban as my field site. So I've been there since 2014, tapos every year bumabalik ako doon as part of my research method, except na lang nung COVID. So nagkataon na nandun ako habang, yun nga, yung election na sobrang intense, di ba, nung tumatapos si BBM for election, for election. And we know that Tacloban obviously is baluarte ng mga Romualdez at ng mga Marcos. So I'm not sure if generalizable yung finding na nakuha ko in that fieldwork, but I think it's very much relatable in many different contexts. So tama naman yung sabi mo, Regine, na maraming naniniwala talaga to the point na na-scam nga sila, as in they literally lost money because they believed in the conspiracy theory. Pero meron din namang isang side ng story na people find it frivolous na parang, malamang hindi naman yan totoo, pero sakyan na rin na lang natin. And dun sa mga conversations that I've had with my research participants, nung, nung inaral talaga namin kung ano nga yung purpose niya, ano yung purpose ng conspiracy theory sa isang demokrasya katulad ng Pilipinas, rather than bakit sila naniniwala or bakit hindi sila naniniwala. Parang ang mas interesting question sa akin is, bakit siya nandyan pa rin? Bakit hindi siya namamatay, right? Bakit ang dami pa rin, bakit pinag-uusapan pa rin natin yung mga ganyang conspiracy theory, lalo na yung Italiano Gold? Ano yung purpose niya? I think that's the more relevant question for me. And yung napansin namin is, yung purpose niya is, first, it helps people avoid difficult conversations. Kasi yung interviewing style ko naman with my research participants, talagang upfront na parang, china-challenge ko talaga sila kasi alam ko na kaya rin naman nilang sumagot. So pag sinasabi ko na, or yeah, in our interviews when I ask them, hindi ba marami namang napatunayan naman na nagnakaw talaga yung mga Marcoses, so bakit nyo pa rin sila iboboto? Tapos parang ang reaction is, hindi, okay lang yun, di ba nga may Italiano Gold? Yung parang they use it to smoothen controversial conversations. Pero hindi lang siya applicable kasi sa mga Marcos eh. If we see corruption, for example, in our daily lives, so for example, yung kapitbahay namin nagtatrabaho sa BIR, bakit bigla na lang nagkaroon ng bagong kotse? Or bakit bigla na lang nagka-Rolex? So, syempre mapapaisip ka, di ba? Baka may corruption or baka nagnakaw. Pero dahil ayaw natin na maging jarring yung everyday political encounters, dadaanan na lang natin sa, hindi, Yamashita treasure yan. So, may mga ganun din akong kwento na narinig sa field site na bakit yung kapitbahay namin bigla na lang nagka-hair salon or bakit na lang bigla sila nagka-motor. May mga ganong question na saan ang galing yung pera. Hindi, Yamashita treasure yan. So, parang yan yung nagiging purpose niya eh. It stops us from having difficult conversations, from having conversations about accountability. Kaya siya dangerous for democracy kasi parang nagiging conversation stopper siya. But I think the most troubling of it, at least for me, is parang pinapapurol niya yung capacity natin to imagine political alternatives. Kasi yung second finding din dun sa fieldwork is that pag pinag-uusapan yung Italiano Gold, nag-e-enjoy yung mga taong pag-usapan siya eh. Kasi yun yung parang nagiging outlet para mag-fantasize yung mga tao ng gusto nilang mangyari sa buhay nila. Yun yung nagiging outlet para ma-describe nila yung mga aspiration nila sa buhay. So parang siyang yung concept din ng loto, yung concept ng game shows, di ba? Parang, kung manalo ka sa loto, anong gagawin mo? Or kung sumali ka sa ganitong reality show, tapos makuha mo yung ganitong pera, anong gagawin mo dun sa pera? So parang ganun din yung Italiano Gold na, gagamitin ko siya para maka-migrate kami, para magka-down payment kami, para makatrabaho kami sa Saudi, or gagamitin ko siya para magpa-ospital. Di ba parang ang lungkot nun eh, na we are able to only talk about our aspirations in the context of game shows and conspiracy theories rather than talk about our aspirations kasi meron tayong polisiya o programa na ino-offer ng isang political party or na kandidato that allows us to aspire. So yun for me, yung harm talaga niya for our democracy na Italiano Gold pala talaga yung mag-open ng space para i-articulate natin yung aspirations. Diba? That's really troubling.
Yeah. So kumbaga, it's both like a scapegoat and a fantasy outlet for people.
Well, before I answer that, Regine, no, like, add ko lang yung sa sinabi ni Nicole. Everything she was saying, interestingly, was also really mirrored in the way that these conspiracy videos were produced. And so, I think one reason why, like, if we're saying that, we're also arguing that, they serve as placeholders, scapegoats, as you mentioned, at the same time, outlets for fantasy, for people to express like what their aspirations really are. If you Because I watched like hundreds and hundreds of videos, and so you could really spot patterns in how these videos were produced, what messages they were seeing, what images they were evoking. And interestingly enough, parang yung method nila para masabi nun is one through evidence, um, but decontextualizing quote unquote evidence, or even taking news clips from media, legacy media, BBC, GMA, cutting it and spicing it in very specific portions to make it look like the reporter in the Marcoses were trying to uncover something that had been hidden for so long. Um, and at the same time using even stock video of like President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. now ringing the bell at the New York Stock Exchange. All of this to evoke like just yeah, like to keep holding on to that hope. So decontextualizing and using evidence like that, and at the same time, second to what we were saying as well, that the messaging is in such a way that they try to invite viewers in to discover these things to them rather than saying, I'm going to uncover a truth for you. Sasabihin nila, tignan natin kung ano ba talaga yung totoo. In that, and at the same time, so alam na natin kung ano yung mga facts. So, sa'yo na kung naniniwala kayo kung totoo talaga o hindi. And so they still leave it up to the viewer. There's an agency that's like left to them, which I think can be very empowering, right? Versus when you're just being told that's wrong and that's right, or like that's definitely a conspiracy theory and that's like this is obviously the truth.
Who are the people who tend to be more vulnerable to conspiracy theories? Or are there people who tend to be more vulnerable than others? What are some interventions you think that need to be made for people to be less vulnerable to conspiracy theories?
Yeah, ito hindi na 'to part ng research namin, pero part siya ng literature review namin. So may mga pag-aaral actually na nagsasabi na yung mga taong naniniwala sa conspiracy theories, ay yung mga tao na ang tingin sa sarili nila ay very critical people. Yun yung interesting, kasi parang 'pag inisip natin, sino bang naniniwala sa conspiracy theories? Sila yung mga uto-uto, sila yung madaling maloko. Pero actually, yung self-perception ng mga naniniwala is yun nga, critical kami. Hindi kami actually yung type ng tao na nasa filter bubble. Nagbabasa kami ng iba't ibang sources. Kaya nag-a-appeal nga yung nabanggit ni Sofia, yung mga influencers na nagsasabi na, do your own research, or the decision is up to you. Ikaw yung mag-decide kung ano yung tingin mo dito sa conspiracy theory. Nag-a-appeal yun sa kanila kasi nga parang hindi lang siya parang sinasabihan na think before you click, na medyo patronizing siguro yung tingin nila. Parang tingin nila, yung conspiracy theory, ginagalang yung pagiging critical thinkers nila. Yung term doon actually is epistemologically risky. Yung parang handa kang sumugal ng kaalaman kasi meron kang gustong i-pursue na lead. And in fact, hindi naman sa dinedefend ko yung mga gumagawa ng conspiracy theory, lalo na yung mga tao na kumikita sa paggawa ng conspiracy theory. Pero marami rin naman kasing conspiracy theories that have been proven to be true, di ba? Na parang dati yung idea na ang mga tobacco companies ay nagtatago sila ng evidence to show that nicotine is addictive. Dati conspiracy theory lang yun. Pero napatunayan eventually na actually nagtago talaga sila ng ebidensya na nagpapatunay na addictive ang nicotine. Or yung mga anti-vaxxers na kini-question yung kung sino yung kumita doon sa mga paggawa ng vaccine. It's a fair question, di ba? Na parang pera ng gobyerno yung ginamit natin to buy those vaccines. Saan napunta yung pera? Sino yung kumita? Sino yung nakinabang? It's a valid line of inquiry, right? So I think yung intervention dyan, ano ba yung appealing sa conspiracy theories? I think yung appealing sa conspiracy theory, more than the content, is the style of inviting people to be part of producing knowledge. Ang term nga nila doon ay participatory disinformation, di ba? Na hindi lang siya basta disinformation na top-down. Parang may role din na bottom-up nang gagaling yung disinformation. So baka pwede rin siyang gawin ng advocates for truth. Siguro yung isang example lang na gusto kong gamitin dito is may isang study na nag-compare ng pro-vaccination website at anti-vaccination website sa Netherlands. yung pro-vaccination website, information lang. This is the truth about vaccines. Pero yung anti-vax na website, mas interactive siya. They encouraged viewers or users of the website to upload their own information, have a conversation, and then decide for themselves. Ano yung mas naging engaging and more effective, di ba? Malamang yung anti-vaxxers kasi it encourages people to engage and be part of it. So, yun nga, my work for the past 15 years has been about participatory and deliberative democracy. The point of it is that first, we don't assume that people are stupid. We assume that people are capable of processing complex information. We just need to create that environment that allows people to judge and discern for themselves and also allow them to experiment kung ano yung mga nasa isip nila at mag-engage din ng knowledge na medyo risky pero handa nating pag-usapan. So I think that's the intervention that's needed when it comes to conspiracy theories. Rather than dismissing them as people na gullible, we actually we should take the different track and realize these are actually people who see themselves as critical, meaning may appeal sa kanila yung critical conversations. So anong pwede natin gawin with that? They're not averse to listening to others, di ba? They're just averse maybe to being discarded as stupid or naive or incapable of processing information.
Absolutely. So a lot of the game is also played not in the realm of fact, but in the realm of emotion and connection, no? Um, that being said, one other thing that I'm quite curious about and I want to ask you guys about is um you've mentioned yung research nyo sa Talana Gold and how it gave an outlet for fantasy, for aspirations of people. So mas positive yung interpretation nito sa conspiracy theory, yung interaction ng mga tao in a way. But there is a rise also in conspiracy theories that result in very, I would say, negative emotions. Um, Siguro napansin niyo na that in recent months, especially with the arrest of former President Duterte sa ICC, nagkaroon ng trend online of EJK denialism. And it's, for me, I found it very disturbing kasi it reminded me of conspiracy theories sa US and sa UK where they deny killings ng mass shootings, ng the terrorist bombing sa Manchester, for example. And yung mga believers ng conspiracy theory na to go out of their way na magharas ng mga victims, ng families ng victims, ng mga survivors. At napansin ko to sa news comment sections um, ng mga EJK victims reacting to the ICC arrest. Nabalita na rin that some family members have been doxxed. At nagkakaroon ng discussion ng tanim bangkay, tanim EJK. May ganong language na that's forming around it. So sobrang curious ako. What is your reaction to this? At ano naman yung possible adverse effects nito?
Okay. So, ako for me, obviously we're not excusing people who produce content related to the Taliano Gold and other conspiracy theories. In fact, one of the strongest arguments against conspiracy theories is sino yung kumikita dyan, right? Ano yung political economy of conspiracy theories? Sino yung nakikinabang? And so I think that also applies to, yung parang EJK denialism, di ba? Sino yung, to use Jonathan Ong and Jason Cabañas' term, sino yung architects of disinformation? Sino yung nagsiseed ng ganyang narrative? Sino yung kumikita? At sino yung nagbabayad sa kanila? And this is why investigative reports that follow the money when it comes to disinformation, conspiracy theories, is so important. Kasi nga, hindi naman siya benign. Hindi naman siya basta magkatuwaan lang tayo or we talk about our aspirations. Because you're absolutely right. It has concrete adverse effects, especially when it relives the trauma of families who lost their loved ones from Duterte's drug war. So I will stick to the political economy argument. Let's follow the money.
Mm-hmm. Ikaw, Sophia, what do you think?
No, I think, similar thoughts, no, and I guess as a journalist as well, like that would be, on the one hand, there's this function of conspiracy theories allowing people to say what they really want. Okay, on the one hand, interesting din yan. Okay, but di nila makuha, let's say, through other means or through less harmful means, or saan tayo nakukulang na yung mga tao, ginagamit nila talaga yung conspiracy theories para usapan yung mga gusto nila. That's like one thing. I think on the one hand, yes, we say that's the less harmful, but I think it's we can also argue that that's not like without harm, or that doesn't mean that there's no harm being done to them, right? Like that's also a different thing in itself. But on the other hand, I agree with what you were both saying, no? Like really following the money on sino ba talaga yung mga architects ng disinfo. Because at the same time, um, nag-evolve talaga yung, I think my mind is going to this place where I remember toward the latter end of our research, nag-evolve din talaga yung messaging ng conspiracy videos with whatever the news cycle is tackling. So let's say, okay, sa nung una kasi we spanned it all the way from like candidate filing of candidacies to the first few months of the Marcos presidency. So it really evolved with the timeline as well. Like, okay, hindi pa nanalo si Marcos. So, okay, golden age ng martial law yung mean messaging natin. All the way till, okay, nanalo na siya. That means you have to protect him kasi siya yung key sa Italiano Gold. Until the point na, okay, to the point na nung float yung, I guess, yung chika na, okay, baka tatakbo din si Martin. Oh, si Martin, character na din sa mga conspiracy videos. So I think, yeah, really trying to follow the money in that because it evolves quickly and it evolves fast and they're very nimble about it. And so to think that, Italiana good lang yan. Alam na natin yung script. No, nag-evolve talaga. And that, as long as people are watching, that has an effect as well.
Absolutely. And to expand siguro yung universe no ng conspiracy theories. For example, with not just the Talano Gold but etong Tanim EJK conspiracy theory, for example. May offshoot din siya that's kind of related to another example na sinight ni Nicole earlier. Yung may umiikot ngayon na narrative na napansin namin which we reported on sa Philippine Center for Investigative Journalism. That's blaming the US, quote-unquote, deep state.
Yeah.
Communists.
ICC arrest.
Na parang, oo, na nakikipagsabuatan daw sila first for the ICC arrest and then now for the impeachment and like just naming all these parang disparate groups na nakikipagsabuatan daw ang lahat ng mga taong ito to bring down the Dutertes and such. At ang hirap niyang mahagilap as a journalist kasi tama ka, Sofia, parang parating nag-evolve yung story and it's so difficult because it just evolves so much faster than journalism and fact checkers can keep up with. Kasi tayo as researchers, journalists, academics, the way that we do our research is just inherently slower than the pace at which they go about their production. So that being said, how do you think we should bridge that gap, and also what's the role that social media platforms probably should play in this?
Yeah, yun nga yung genius ng conspiracy theory, no? Kasi parang, how do you disprove something na hindi nga nangyari, right? So, kaya parang, anong gagawin mo as a journalist, di ba? How do you produce evidence that does not exist to disprove the conspiracy? So, mahirap siya talaga. But I think, siguro, maybe I can say this kasi nga I'm not doing the grunt work involved in journalism, na ang hirap nga naman talagang labanan ng conspiracy theory with facts. Pero yung tingin ko yung isang possible pathway is to maybe listen to the critical part of the conspiracy theory and engage with it. For example, yung ICC arrest na okay, maganda yung pag-debunk nyo dun sa PCIJ article na ito yung history ng Philippine and US relationship. It doesn't work like that. Na may deep state, ganyan-ganyan. Pero siguro yung subtext din ng conspiracy theory is there's also maybe an audience for people who actually want to say, so ano nga yung politics of arrest ni Duterte? Di ba? Anong trade-offs ang ginawa, let's say, ng Marcos government with let's say the ICC, 'di ba may mga ganong questions na ano ba talaga yung nangyari sa Interpol? So yung realpolitik kumbaga na kaya nangyari yung ICC arrest, maybe there is a lot of interest in relation to that. Kagaya na lang nung sinabi ko kanina about the anti-vaxxers na okay, hindi man siguro siya sabuatan ng WHO at ng pharma companies at ni George Soros. Pero fair nga yung question na sino yung kumita sa COVID vaccines at paano natin yan binabayaran at overpriced ba yung mga vaccines na yan. So I suppose we can take something from the conspiracy theory and bring it to its reasonable and logical engagement na parang pwede natin siyang gamitin na space to actually say, okay, what you're saying is, epistemologically risky, it's unacceptable, it has no basis in facts, but you raise an issue that is valid and, it's in relation to that. Yeah, what are the political trade-offs of the Duterte arrest and who made money from the COVID vaccines. So for me, mas ganun pa. Parang taking advantage of the conversation space that these conspiracy theories open. Ang hindi ko masagot, Regine, is yung tanim EJK
Yeah.
conspiracy. Anong added value niya? Kasi trauma na yung pinag-uusapan dito eh.
I think just to add din lang din sa sinabi ni Nicole, aside from really engaging with those questions, I think also baka obvious sabihin, pero engaging as well with the people who believe in these theories, who use these theories. I think sometimes there's an inclination to be like, or just to brush them off or to not listen to them. Pero, I mean, precisely sa fieldwork at sa research natin, na nakita din natin na, okay, may deeper issues, or they're people who listen, and probably, I mean, everybody also likes to be listened to. So just to make the space to listen to them and hear their story, see where they're coming from, ano ba talaga yung mga issue nila. And at the same time, I totally agree with you. As a journalist, like the process of fact checking is so much slower than the the process of conspiracy making, if you can call it that. But that doesn't mean that you can already engage people with the facts that you know. So of course, like, type natin yung story. Sige, edit natin, publish natin. But while that's all happening, like, people who are already engaging with it, you can tell them, like, you can have conversations with them and engage with them as well. And I think that's true as well, especially, like, even more so when you understand the academic theories behind it, and like the other studies and findings that academics are doing. There's such a long pipeline and process to getting that out into the world. It doesn't mean that you can't already like start by talking to people and listening to them as well.
Fantastic. Very well put. Thank you so much, Sophia and Nicole. So I guess if there's a major takeaway that we have, it's that it's important to not necessarily just call people out, but also to call them in, because that is what um, uh, conspiracy theorists are doing, and it's definitely something that we might actually be able um, uh, to learn from them on the side of people who are pro deliberative democracy. Thank you so much to everyone for listening in. This is Regine Cabato for Teka Teka News, powered by Puma Podcast. And that has been Nicole Curato and Sofia Tomacruz.